Good afternoon. It's Karri.Lindsey with Brix Realty. I am the managing broker of Brix. Thank you for joining me today for June's real estate market report. Let's talk about real estate. So, no big surprise here. We are going through a changing market. Not a difficult market, nothing like 2008, nothing like 2020, but it is a market that's causing some confusion. And probably the most confusing thing to all of us is mortgage rates. So I'm not going to try to tell you what I think mortgage rates are going to do because our economy is simply too volatile right now to be able to determine that. But what I can do is tell you why I think mortgage rates are so high. And so to explain that, we need to talk about how a mortgage rate is created. So for 50 years, there is what's called a 10-year treasury yield, and that is a yield that the government pays investors to purchase a specific security. And it serves as a vital benchmark for other interest rates. And so in addition to the 10-year treasury yield, you have a spread. And the spread is something that the banking industry adds on top of the treasury yield to create the mortgage rate. So those two, the treasury yield and the spread, create the mortgage rate. The spread is the bank's piece of that mortgage rate that they get to keep. And so for 50 years, that spread has averaged out to be about 1.72%. So whatever the treasury yield would be, you could add 1.72% on top of that, and you would get the mortgage rate. Well, let me tell you what, in 2023, that is not the case. So starting from the beginning of this year, we have blown the 1.72% away. And right now, as of the beginning of this month, we stand at over 3% above 1.72. So almost double what the normal rate has been. And so what that means is our interest rates are higher. And that is one of the reasons why mortgage rates are also high. This is very, very rare, folks. George Retu from KCM, he's the chief economist there, he says that the only times the spread has approached or exceeded 300 basis points, and think of 3% as 300 basis points, were during periods of high inflation or economic volatility, like those seen in the early 1980s or the great financial crisis of 2008 and 2009. So is what we're experiencing rare? Absolutely. Most definitely it is rare. And it doesn't seem to be going away quite yet. Very rarely does the spread jump above 3, but lucky us, we are right in the middle of one of those times right now. And that again is why rates are so high. This quote from Odetta Kushi, the deputy chief economist of First American, says this: "It's reasonable to assume that the spread and therefore the mortgage rates will retreat in the second half of the year if the Fed takes its foot off of the monetary tightening pedal and provides investors with more certainty in our market. However, it's unlikely that the spread will return to its historic average of 170 basis points. Because some risks are simply just here to stay." So that's not great news. It looks like maybe the 1.72 that we've always been able to count on for the last 50 years may not be the new norm. Well, what does that mean? Well, here's a graph explaining it. At the beginning of June, the 10-year treasury yield was 3.65%. That's one of the components that makes up the mortgage rate. The orange is the spread. So if we were at normal spreads, the 1.72%, we'd have an interest rate of 5.37 for mortgages right now. And that would be amazing if rates went down to 5.37, right? It would be a crazy market. But we're at 3.2, and so that means interest rates are touching 7%. And in some instances, based on your credit score and your debt-to-income ratio, you're over 7% in our market. As Odetta Kushi suggested, the spread's not going back to 1.72. So even if we went 0.5% higher to 2.25, we would still have mortgage rates under 6%. And I believe that is the key right there, under 6%. Rates in the 5.75, 6% range would be wonderful for buyers, and it would cause a frenzy in the real estate market. So for now, no relief is coming, most likely towards the end of the year. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears a little bit, and who knows that June is National Homeowners Month? Well, let's honor it quickly by reviewing some of the benefits of homeownership. The first one, building equity, building family wealth, building generational wealth, control over expenses. Yes, buying a home right now is a little bit more expensive than renting, but wait 5 years and see what happens. Your mortgage payment will be the same, but I guarantee you your rent payment will not. It definitely will not. So buying a home is long-term savings. Imagine this. Every time you make a mortgage payment, you can put that money in the bank. Because at the end, when you sell your home, you get that money back in equity, right? Now imagine every month you make a rent payment. Crumble that check up and throw it in the trash. Why? Because you're throwing money away. It's true, I promise. If you want to build your wealth, own a home. If you want to build your landlord's wealth, rent a home. There's a big difference. When your landlord sells his home, he's not giving you any money. He's keeping it all for himself. There's also tax benefits that go along with homeownership. There's a mortgage interest rate deduction. There's a property tax deduction, meaning that we're saving money when we're not paying rent. So that's an obvious benefit as well. And there are more benefits, of course, but these most likely are the big ones that people consider when they look to purchase a home. And so now let's focus on equity. We talked about equity. That's one way to build wealth. If you stay in your home, you build equity. Right now, the average equity in the United States is somewhere around $300,000 per house. Here in Florida, if you've owned your home since 1991, home prices here have increased 427% in the last 31 years. That's amazing and mind-blowing. So think of that equity as a homeowner. Very nice, right? Now think of that equity as your landlord, right? Because he's not going to give you any money when he sells it. That equity that you're paying his house payment, it goes to him. Not nice, right? Never lose sight that the American dream is built on homeownership. In fact, the median Consumer Insights reports just came out and said that 78% of Americans associate home ownership with the American dream. So anyone that's telling you that, well, I think that homeownership is, not really considered the American dream anymore, ask them where they're getting their information, because they're wrong. Truly. Now, what about young people? The rumor out there is, well, they're a renter society. That's what they are. They're not going to buy homes. But according to this customer insight report, 68% of millennials and Gen Z say that investing in real estate is a smart financial decision. And 43% of Gen Z are considering buying a home as an investment property or just a residence for them to live in. To further illustrate, Gallup does a poll every year, and they ask the Americans' opinion about what is the best long-term investment. This has been a rough year for real estate. Mortgage rates are up, inventory is low, mortgage payments are higher, but still, even in 2023, real estate was seen as the best long-term investment, even better than gold, which is skyrocketing right now because of recession fears. Folks, real estate has been voted the best long-term investment for the last 11 years. Americans believe in homeownership, and they believe that that is part of the American dream. So don't let anybody tell you different, because it's simply not true. Remember in previous videos, I've talked about the headlines out there, how grim they are, how the market's going to crash. Well, there were some very prominent economists and very prominent global banks out there saying that, prices were going to fall off the cliff and that the real estate market was going to crash. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. The numbers actually got better. And as we saw coming into this year, the real estate market didn't crash. And now only 32% of Americans think that prices are going to go down over the next 12 months. So 1 out of 3. And I'm here to tell you, prices are not going down. It's simply not true. So let's go right into home prices and what actually is going to happen. And first of all, some of the questioning around home prices comes from the median home price. That's what's always reported. It's reported by NAR, it's reported by Redfin and a lot of other companies. But the median home price is really meaningless. It's what a lot of companies report on, but in a very volatile market like where we are right now, it's the worst number to look at. Bill McBride from Calculated Risk, who's always promoting, the median home price as a good way to look at the pricing of property, just came out the other day and said that median home prices are distorted and that we should be looking at the repeat sales index like Case-Shiller and FHFA. And those are probably better now for measuring home prices. So let's dig a little deeper. The median price is just the middle price. So as we're selling less expensive homes, of course, the median price, that middle number, is going to go down. The Center for Real Estate Studies at Wichita State University said that the median sales price measures the middle price of homes that sold, meaning that half of the homes sold for higher prices and the other half sold for less. So you're strictly looking at the middle portion of homes, and it's just not very useful for measuring home price appreciation because it's affected by the composition of those homes that sold. If more lower price houses sell, the median home price obviously goes down. It doesn't mean that any house is worth less though. For example, if more lower priced homes have sold recently, then the median sales price would decline because the median home is now a lower priced home, even if the value of each individual home is rising. That's our market right now. There are more lower priced homes being sold, and so the median sale price is declining, but that doesn't mean that home prices are going down. So let's take a look. Case-Shiller repeat sales, meaning more accurate. There is a longer lag time with this data, which is why a lot of companies don't use it. So what we're showing right now is March data. April data isn't out yet, but we can still see what happened. The beginning of last year, things were taking off. We were flying high. Everything was good. Interest rates were in the 3s. And then in July, things changed. Interest rates went up. It looked like all of a sudden there was going to be like a ton of listings. People were going to stop buying. But that didn't happen. But some people were projecting that. And so then all of a sudden, these negative headlines came out and prices did start to fall. But the worst month was August. And it seems to be balancing back out now. So the last 2 months, according to Case-Shiller, are showing positive, not negative. So month over month, percent change of home values is showing that we might be past the worst of it. Consider this, back in 2008, it took us almost 6 years to come back to a positive on home prices. Here we're talking just about 6 months. So Case-Shiller says prices are stabilizing. What does FHFA say? Prices are stabilizing. And they look at slightly different sets of data. So their numbers are slightly different, but the overall trend is exactly the same. We had a rough second half of last year and a bumpy first quarter, but now we're coming back. So what does CoreLogic say? CoreLogic says that prices are stabilizing too. Same thing, same trend. And again, they look at slightly different data sets. So their numbers are not exactly the same, but look at that trend. The trend is the same. And as a matter of fact, let's put all of these graphs together so that you can see. Look at the trends. They say the same thing. The three most reputable home price indexes are all saying the same thing. We had a great first half of 2022. We had a rough second half of 2022, but now we are on our way back. And that's important for you to know that. I'm not sure if everything's going to be green from this point forward. I'll definitely keep you posted for that. But the cascading downward, the falling off a cliff, the market crash, the 20 to 25% decrease in prices, I can pretty much guarantee you that we are not going to come anywhere close to those numbers. In fact, we might even end this year on a positive note, which would be amazing. Now, let's talk about the pandemic, or what some people now have coined the unicorn years as far as real estate is concerned. And why do they call it the unicorn years? Well, because it was very different and seemingly unreal and just wasn't supposed to happen. So have you heard folks say, excuse me, well, things are off this year. They're not as good as they were. Well, yeah, that's true. But what are you comparing this year to? Well, in 2023, appreciation dropped to 5% on average nationwide so far, and it was 18% in 2021. Well, 2021 and the first half of 2022 is a unicorn years. But you can't compare 2023 to 2021 and 2022. Those were the two greatest years in American real estate history, a total anomaly and something, again, that was not supposed to happen. So when people are saying this year doesn't look good compared to last year, know that last year was an anomaly. So let's compare what's happening to the normal years before the unicorn years. Well, home appreciation is about the same. Pending listings, funny, about the same. But now people say, oh, pending listings are way down. Whoa, what are you comparing them to? The unicorn years, of course. Well, what about showing traffic? I hear there's just not enough showings. People are not going out and looking for houses, and that means that there aren't buyers out there. Well, what are you comparing it to? The unicorn years. But if we look to more normal years like 17, 18, 19, and 2020, actually the number of buyers out there are up from those years. Okay, well, what about median days on market? That's way up. Way up. From what? The unicorn years. Yeah, I get it. But if we look back to 2017, 18, 19, and 20, we are still selling houses faster now than we did in any of those normal years. And that, again, is something to take note of. It's important. It's important that we understand that we cannot compare today's market and what we're experiencing today to the unicorn years where things were crazy and just not normal. We have to compare back to 2017, 18, 19, and 20 and look at month-over-month data instead of year-over-year. And I will end by saying that the 10-year Treasury, I do believe, will come down sometime probably in the latter part of this year. That's what everybody is projecting. And so with that, the spread will come down, at least some. And friends, if mortgage rates drop under 6%, if you think that there's an inventory shortage now and prices are high now, just wait. It will be crazy. So buy now and save yourself the headache. You can always refinance when the housing prices and the rates you can always refinance when the rates come down. But don't wait for housing prices to go up, which is what happens when rates go down. please contact me today and let me help you. I do my best to report what I feel is the truth based on what the data says, and I'm bound by the Realtor Code of Ethics to do so. Thank you so much for joining today. And again, if you want to discuss further, please reach out and give me a call. Thank you so much. Have a great day.